Welcome to bLU Talks.
Oh, aloha, Corey. Aloha, Elise.
Hi.
So happy to be here. I'm delighted. I'm honored. And Corey, my name is pronounced Lani Yamasaki.
Wow, Lani.
Lani Yamasaki.
Yamasaki. Yes, mouthful.
I love it. It's a great name. It's amazing. It rings.
And live Lokahi. Live Lokahi. Is that how you say it?
Perfect. Yes.
What does Lokahi mean?
Great question. So Lokahi is a Hawaiian value and practice that means harmony and unity. But in practice, in the actual practice, it illustrates the interdependency between divinity, nature, and humankind. And it is the Hawaiian ancestral well-being practice.
So it's like the trifecta or the pyramid.
Yes, it's exactly an equilateral pyramid.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I'm kind of like saying it because I'm looking at your little social media bite, and that is your company.
That is my company. Yes, I would say our company. I mean, I'm really privileged to be able to share this ancestral knowledge because of my ancestors and my elders who taught me this wisdom practice.
Now, is it similar to Ho'oponopono?
Well, Ho'oponopono is certainly a part of Lokahi. I mean, to be in balance, to practice Ho'oponopono, to come into a place of balance, which is a reconciliation process, you have to come to a state of Lokahi, right? To come to that place of inner peace and inner harmony.
So that's the space that you Ho'oponopono from.
It is one of the, yes, I would say aloha, which actually so many people think, oh, aloha just means love, but it means love, kindness, compassion, and charity. So I would say love and Lokahi. And by the way, Corey, Elise, I have to share that when I talk about our Hawaiian traditions, I'm speaking for our family. I'm not speaking for all of the Hawaiians because we have a saying, not all knowledge is found in the same school. So depending upon which family you speak to, you're going to receive their Hawaiian healing tradition.
So this is from your family.
Yes, from our family, Kama'u family. Yeah.
Okay, so I know we jumped in a weird place, but I guess our question is, tell us a little bit more about you now that we like pulled these things out of context.
Oh, but this is great. This is like so Hawaiian. It's like when you meet each other, when you encounter it, you just start where you are, so it's perfect. So
now, are you in Hawaii right now?
Yes, we are. It's 7:30 in the morning. We are in Waimea, which is 3,000-foot elevation on Hawaii Island.
Okay, I'm picturing us there, Corey. We're going to be on the mountain with Lani as we carry this interview through.
Interesting you say that. And I'll say this because go ahead, Corey.
Oh no, sorry, no, go ahead. I was going to show you if I can get it open up on the screen here. I was going to show you something. Could you guys see that?
No! Oh my gosh!
Is that Mickey Mouse? His glove?
I took this picture instead of trying to stand up and go like this. But last year, 2 years ago, when Shelly and I brought Sebastian to Hawaii, I get this tattoo to say, because I was in Hawaii, but I wanted it to be a memory of my being there with my child. So I did the Mickey hand instead of the regular hand. Yeah. But there's something about Hawaii when I was there. It's like, I can't describe it, but it's like this feeling that's there that I haven't seen or experienced anywhere else. So I just wanted to add that 2 cents in since we were first talking about aloha.
Okay, so I'm going to go, Corey, I have to say this. To me, one of the core reasons for your success is because you do come from aloha. And I want to share that aloha, actually, when you look at the word, ALO means in the presence of. And it's really alluding to in the presence of divinity, because Ha is the sacred breath of life. So when we share our aloha with each other, we're actually recognizing that my spirit recognizes the divinity of your spirit. So.
Wow. Beautiful.
Oh,
I just felt that.
I love your culture. Like I just everything I've seen. It's amazing. So I mean, I know we started in a weird direction, but that's cool because
I know, but now we're all on the 3,000. We're 3,000 feet high on a mountain in Hawaii right now. So I'm excited. I can feel it. I mean, I really feel the energy of being there right now. Like,
have you
doesn't
been to
really
Hawaii,
matter.
by the way?
No. Mm-mm.
You need to go.
what island were you on? Excuse me, what island were you on, Corey?
I was Honolulu, of course. I shouldn't say of course, but of course that's the one that everybody seems to have gone to if they've gone at least once.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, we were in Honolulu and we were there for. And again, I don't want to butcher it, but there was a parade or something, a festival. We were there for that festival, and they said it was only once a year, so it was a really cool time. And I got a picture of Sebastian driving like a little car in the festival, and anyway, it's pretty cool. But I can't remember what the festival's called.
Okay, we're going to circle back to that.
What time of year was it?
Yeah.
I can tell you this: there was, it was also at the same time as they had, I forget what it's called, but there's a big amphitheater or center where they also have the festival, which is like going the whole week, and it's like a trade show almost. Like there's different, and then but they also had a parade.
But what time of year was it?
What
March,
like what month?
March or late February.
I am blanking out right now. It will come to me like at 1 o'clock in the morning or at the end of our time together. And I'll let you know.
All right. Or I might try to find it. But yes.
I'm going to Google it while you're chit-chatting about Hawaii because I've never been there. I'm just pretending I'm there right now.
You see how the sun's coming in? It's still rising. So, so with the foundation of Aloha, it's the perfect time to share a little bit more, I guess, about my work and why we're here together. I mean, I don't think this is a coincidence, especially because it's about flipped your script in the time that we're in right now, right?
Yes, yes.
So, okay, so I have the honor and privilege of serving as a Native Hawaiian culture practitioner. And so I teach Lokahi to healers to strengthen their connection to divinity, to nature, to each other. And when you do this, you actually strengthen yourself in the process, and you actually transforms not only your core being, but I'm going to say, especially now, it helps to transform your trauma to ensure that, healers are fully embodied to serve other people. So, yeah. So I was unikied or initiated by my elder, Halemakua, who is now in spirit, but he was a beloved elder and kahuna, and he trained me for 16 years in the Hawaiian psychospiritual arts. And that allows me to share some of our family's traditions with my clients and with my students. And so my work includes, blending in this indigenous holistic healing practices with modern science, culture, and the art.
Oh my God, I just have to say, like, you showed up. Like I intended you and I didn't even know it was, for me.
Okay.
Like, well, and like you're the real deal.
Oh.
Like the real, like I'm just like I'm excited. So go ahead. I just had one of those like wow moments.
Oh no, this is great because I have to tell you, when I listened to you earlier in the week and you said you were a mindset architect, I'm like, that is why, to me at least, why we're coming together now, because a lot of the core part of my work right now involves helping people to understand what we call mo'olelo. And mo'olelo are not only our narratives, our personal stories, but it's also our values, our practices, and our traditions. So we have a saying. So it doesn't resonate?
Yes.
Okay.
I just got like, goosebumps.
We call that chicken skin.
Yeah, I got chicken skin. I have a lot of hair on my arms, so it stands, but it's a little bit more than chicken skin.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. I mean, I think you of all people, and Corey as well, understand that what the Hawaiians call, we're in the time of what we call huli hia. And huli hia actually means we're in a complete overturn of life as we knew it, right?
It's really literally.
That's what huli is. Huli is the turn.
I mean, that's how I call it flip your script, to make it simple and easy for those who are maybe not quite in that awareness yet, because you
Yeah.
can get it. It's fun. It's lighthearted. Because when we go through what we're going through, the challenges that we have, it's heavy already.
Mhm.
Like we already are like overloaded and feeling like overwhelmed. If we could just lighten it up and get into a vibration that's a little lighter, it
Yeah.
seems easier to do that flip.
The huli, right?
The
So
huli. I like
so
that word too, the huli.
so I mean, so yes, huli, right? And so when we say huli here, there are many meanings, but one of the meanings is to create fire,
Mm.
right? So when you think about it, we're in the time of complete change, complete turnover of our lives as we knew it. It is a time of fire, but if we think about this, fire does create new life. So there might be destruction, but there is new life that
Yes,
comes about in the process.
I love it. So, okay, so you have this practice. That's what I love, is that it's birthed from family tradition. That
Yes.
to me is so magical. And so when do you work, you work individually? Do you work with other organizations or groups? How, like,
Yeah.
what is
Yes.
your approach? Just keep going.
You know,
Corey probably knows more, but
we call this we're talking stories. So
yeah.
so I work one-to-one with some individuals. I mentor a group of wellness practitioners. So I primarily work with psychologists. I work with medical physicians. And so when I say healers, I encompass like the entire road of
Mhm.
healers. But for some reason, psychologists keep on coming into our doors here. And then I also work for different foundations. So in the past, I worked with foundations like Mariska Hargitay founded the Joyful Heart Foundation. And so I was really privileged to create their first culturally based curriculum for survivors of sexual assault, child abuse.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, so we talk a little bit. Corey, do you have a question, or can I just keep going?
Well, I was just gonna say, sorry, I don't know what happened. My Wi-Fi froze up, so I actually switched my connection to my other Wi-Fi. But in the interim, while it was coming back on, I just wanted
Yeah.
to say, since we mentioned it earlier, I don't know if you found it, Elise, but I found the name of that festival.
I just got Honolulu Festival. That's
Yeah,
what came up for me.
yeah, it is.
Oh,
It's called the Honolulu Festival, and it's at the Hawaii Convention Center.
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's the one. I just want to, for people that
Oh,
might be going, which one was he talking about? So I just want to insert that.
that's a big international one. And that, wow. Okay.
It was March 13th this year.
Yeah, that's. I remember we were there in March. I just couldn't remember exactly what the name of the festival was. I guess that and we probably said Honolulu Festival, but we probably thought we were just calling it that name, but it wasn't the official name. But looking here online, that's the official name. So you know which one I mean, though, now,
I
right?
do. I do. I
It was a
do.
pretty cool experience. Like we got to watch the dancing, and like I said, we went up and down. They had these what would you call it, like a trade show almost? But we went
Yes.
up and down, and we got to try unique ice cream. I forget the
Oh.
name of the type of ice cream, mocha or like the little ball ice cream balls.
Mochi.
Mochi, yeah. And we
Yes.
tried those, and now they have them at our local stores. I mean, I don't think they're probably as authentic, but we have them at our local stores now. But that was where I first tried it, and for the whole trip there, I was eating those mochis like it was like they were going out of style. But anyway, I don't mean to take us off path because I know we're on a
Okay.
path. But yes,
No, this is so normal for me to talk like this. Whatever comes up, we go for it. It's good.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it coffee chat,
Great
but
experience.
the coffee
Yeah.
talk kind of approach.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on your website right now, so I see the triangle, and then the circle encompasses that triangle. So it's about coming into the center of your space.
Yes,
Is that what that's representing?
it is. It is. And actually, the circle also represents creation. So in Hawaii and many world traditions, the circle represents the womb. So when we come into circle with each other, so for me, when I'm with you now, in my mind, we're in circle together. And that means that we are in a space of creation that we co-create. So whatever impulse moves you, Corey, or you, Elise, to share and myself, it's just going into this beautiful circle of creation co-creation, unscripted. We don't know, but we trust our na'au, our gut, and we just follow the flow. And something's birth it.
Can't believe you just said the word womb. I'm not going to talk about it on live, but we're going to chit chat. You just like, that was like it. That was like, what was it? What were we calling it? The I am. That was like the Nancy's I am. The fact that you used womb and bringing that together, because that's like that whole like root chakra.
Yes.
That's an area that has really been coming up for me, really, and in many ways, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And so we are definitely meant to connect and work together. So I'm glad that you work one-on-one.
I do.
I never say that live, but I'm telling you there's something here. And I intended it. So I'm excited.
That's part of being, to me, when you talk about a mindset architect, for us, it begins here, right? That begins the manifestation process. And then it comes through here. And when you speak, it's your ha, as in aloha, right? Your breath creates a life form.
And that's so powerful to recognize for every single person out there that's watching the replay. If you're watching, just tell everyone that you love that when we speak, it's like this paintbrush. Every word is this paintbrush that creates this reality.
Yes.
Like, it's not a joke. It's not just a saying that Dr. Seuss said or Einstein or whatever. Like, it's really real.
Yes. Yes.
Now,
yes.
How about so in the indigenous culture, I don't know if you've, and I don't want to sound ignorant with this, but I don't know, so I'll ask.
Sure.
There's no stupid answers, as they say, or stupid questions, as they say. But I'm wondering, in the First Nations or indigenous culture, one of the things that I really took to was sweat lodges. And I love the fact that you're in circles. And the reason, what made me think of this is they talk about the rocks. I can't remember now, but it was like the grandfather rock and the mother rock. There's a whole culture around sitting in a sweat lodge, but you're in a circle and sharing. And so it makes me think a lot of the stuff of being in the circle. Is there a practice in Hawaii that would be similar to that? Like, in other words, like a sweat lodge, is that a thing in Hawaii? I'm just curious.
Corey, you just need to know something. I've spent a lot of time in Canada as well, and in Quebec with First Nations. So, and I've been in the sweat lodges as well. Our equivalent to the sweat lodge is actually the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah. The same way that you go into the lodge with the intention of being in relationship with your creator, with all your relations, and certainly with each other, to come to a place of understanding, but cleansing, purging, right? What I call a conscious living death. The ocean is the same for us, in which that salt is a symbol of purification. So then when we go into the water, into the ocean, whether it's clear water, but mainly ocean for what you're speaking of, we go in with the intention of working with our creator, working what we call our alma kua, not only our ancestors, but our guides, and we go in and we ask for that cleansing. And there's a whole protocol. The same way Sweat Lodge has a protocol, we have a series of protocol to go into the ocean for purification.
Is it a certain body of water, a certain ocean, or can it be an ocean in Florida or an ocean in Maine, or is it any ocean?
Maine is my second home, so it's
I'm here right now. We're in Maine.
Wait, what? Where?
I'm in Maine. I'm in South Portland right now.
Okay, so my second home is in Mount Desert, Maine.
Wow, I'm going to see where that is. Mount Desert?
Mount Desert, Maine. Most people know Acadia National Park, so very close to you.
That's where I'm going. My friends so I'm in an RV and I travel a lot. And I'm here visiting my sister because we have a new being that came to be, Jude. He's like 3 weeks old, my nephew. And then I have friends who are also RVing, and they are in Arcadia State Park.
Wow. Okay.
Is it Arcadia? It's near Bar Harbor. Like, they're in Bar Harbor.
Yes.
Is that near where you are?
Yes. Well, not now, but that's absolutely.
No, but that's where I'm heading on Monday for a few days.
So hold that point, because you can it doesn't matter what ocean. The ocean, water has conscience. It's a sentient being, right? So water holds that space of consciousness. So whether in the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean, it doesn't matter, because you're with your creator, you're with your ancestors and your guardians wherever you go.
I love it. Okay, now I know even more. Forget womb, now Maine. I mean, there's already, like, let's just see how far we could go to these connections.
You know what? Maybe I was trying to think. Why did I think the sweat lodge? And it's because the sweat lodge is considered the womb. Like that's part of the sweat lodge is when you go into it. That's some. I mean, I didn't hear that at sweat lodge, but my girlfriend said that was what she got. She actually set up a number of sweat lodges when she was in treatment. Every 2 weeks, and that's one of the things she told me about it. But it's like you're bringing the mother rock and the grandfather rock into the womb. I mean, but to your point, there's so many there's so many things that they hold sacred whenever you go to the sweat lodge. And one of the things that blew my mind, Elise, you'll appreciate this. You're familiar with smudging.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that the first lodge I ever went to was, and I didn't even know what this meant, but I went into the lodge and they wanted to do what is it called? Not a donation, but like when you're giving to the land. A giveaway, yeah. So they said go out and get a cigarette. So they were wanting to give tobacco, and so they told me go out and get it. And so I went out, and then I did whatever, and then I go back in the lodge, and they're all like, "Okay, we all got to get back out now," because you have to smudge off all the energy you just picked up when you went out for 2 seconds. And I didn't even think of that. And I'm walking back in. They're like, "Oh, we got to go back out." The new guy didn't get it, and so we went out and did it all again. But I mean, but it makes sense, right? Clearing your energy off.
Yeah.
But I didn't think you would pick up some from that. But their feeling was, it doesn't matter if it's even this much. We want it all to stay outside the lodge. And it's amazing how much goes into it. But I gained such an appreciation for the traditions by going through that. It's amazing.
Corey, just what you said, think about the heart in the same way, right? I mean, this is an energy field that we share. And so we have to be so cognizant of how we share, what we share, and especially what we leave behind. So the fact that you, Elise, talked about, what I call like you're tapping, right? EFT right before I came, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to bring this in because she's clearing the space. Just the intention. I received that when I walked into the space with the two of you.
Oh, that's amazing. So I'm so curious. So let's say I call, like we'd connect afterwards, and I call you and I share what's going on, and I'll play the whoever is ready to, connect. So what is the process? Do we have a conversation? Because I know we all have a different approach, right? So people who come to you, like, so what can we expect? Because this is new to me. Like, I mean, I understand the connection between the mind, the body, the spirit, tradition, but the fact that you have like, it's from your family, like, to me, that's like a recipe that's passed down from generation to generation. It has that much umami, right? There's an umami, there's a balance in that, to me, that's different than, yes, I'm a mindset EFT practitioner, I connect to source and all that. I mean, that's universal, but when it's rooted in family and tradition like that, there's something so sacred.
Thank you. Yes, there really is, because again, when we say nana ike kumu, nana means look to the source. So again, I have the blessing of now being the recipient with a lineage behind of me.
Yes.
And so that's a lot of responsibility. And so when I meet with people, well, okay, so I work very much in the tradition of my elders. I very clear about who I want to work with, because it's actually a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
So that if somebody approaches me and asks to, be in a mentorship with me, then we sit down like now and we talk story. And basically it is a meeting of our creators, whoever you might call creator, right? Some people say God, some say Buddha, whoever you can,
whatever.
Yes. We bring in the ancestors and we physically talk story about why you're here, what you hope to receive. But at the same time, I'm listening. And at the end of our time together, I will make a decision. Is this appropriate or is it not appropriate at this time? Why? Well, I'm 61. And so I'm 61. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right.
And
I want whatever skincare you're using or whatever, like, I can't even.
Happiness. Aloha.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. You look so young, chronologically young.
Oh, well, okay. So that's a whole other conversation. But
It's probably the Hawaiian skin or whatever.
well, actually, I think that when look at, okay, when we do what brings us joy, when we actually, what we call, are living in our kuleana is actually your responsibility. It's actually, and your authority, and it's your privilege. It's different from purpose, right? And so I look at kuleana as being like your sacred contract. And so when you're living in this, it helps you to evolve. And you just keep on different iterations, right? Of I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that, And so when you're in that flow, it brings you so much life. And so I think that all of us really who have the privilege of living our kuleana, I think it gives us a life force, and it just brings more vitality to us.
And we can feel it too, right? We can feel when we're in it, and we can feel when we're separated from it. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you could relate too, Corey, right? Like when we're in it, and feel younger physically. Like the skin comes alive, right? Like every cell comes to life. And when I'm out of it, I definitely feel out of it. Like I feel older, right? Like just like I can look when we look at ourselves, we look older.
Well, and when you've heard me say this before, Elise, but I've jokingly, but it's true, I've jokingly called it vitamin P. And for me, I'm talking purpose and living on purpose.
Passion.
What I've found is that I often say it's the one vitamin you can't buy in the store, but it's the most important vitamin you'll ever take.
Yeah.
And one thing, I did a documentary, I'm working on a documentary where I'm interviewing people like Bob Proctor, who's 85, Les Brown, who's in mid-70s, James Redfield, who's almost 70. Those guys don't look a day older than they did 30 years ago. Bob Proctor's 85, and I think he told me he could do cartwheels. I mean, like the point is that what you're talking about, Lani. I mean, I feel that if people are living whatever that is. I mean, I'm using the term purpose, but if they found their calling and they're serving that, I find, to your point, they stay vibrant, they stay young. There's a difference. I mean, there's something to it, and like I say, I call it vitamin P, but whatever you want to call it.
What is the word again? Kuleani. Kuleani. What is the word again?
Okay, it's kuleana. 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 So, yeah, Corey, can I adopt the vitamin P?
Oh yeah, take it and run with it.
Cool. But so I want to talk about kuleana, and that Ku is actually like one of our 4 major gods. He's also a healing god. So Ku means upright. And when you talk about ana, it means over a period of time. So to me, when you embark on your kuleana, it is life-giving. And it changes you. It helps you to evolve over a period of time. And it's to remain open, because I think for me, the worst thing is when people say that when they stick to something because they feel like, if I don't stick to this, then I'm a failure, in comparison to having the impulses come in, listening to them and saying, something is niggling at me. I need to make a turn this way. I think it's really vital, and especially in this time of what we call, again, hulihia, a time of complete shift, a time of complete overturn. I think we have to listen to what is informing our script, right? What is informing our narrative, and to actually follow that path. Who knows where it's going to go, but to not follow it means, to me, suppressing what is coming through you to guide you.
And so we took you off path a little bit too. I know, Lani, that we were asking you when you work with people, and I know you did answer that in terms of deciding when you're going to work with somebody. And I don't know, Elise, were you also diving into what it looks like to work with Lani as well? I just want to make sure we don't move away.
Right. Well, and so what I also respect so much is that you recognizing that there's a resonance, like that you resonate with, right, together with. And I think that's, I mean, we interview a lot of individuals who are here to serve, right, and have come into purpose. And I think very few up until now have even stated, like you're saying, you know what, we come together, and then I know, like my knowing will let me know which direction to take. And that's very powerful in and of itself, because it's bigger than you.
Yes. I'm just
right. You're the messenger. You're the receiver. You're the face of, right. And I mean, and such a beautiful face of. But it's and you say it so well, because I don't know where I know what I know, but you have a knowing of that you're connected on a bigger level. And I am too. I don't have the voice. I don't have that. It's not rooted in the tradition. If anything, my family thinks I'm crazy. Like, what is she talking about? She's, oh, that's just her. Like, so a lot of times coaches and individuals who come into their purpose, not from lineage, right, have a battle. And I don't like to use that term often, but it's a conflict is even better with their family, with their friends and who they are. And they have to separate themselves almost from that. Like, this is me and family, and this is me on stage, or this is me as a coach.
Yeah.
But you're bringing to the table this beautiful medley.
Which is you. Seriously. So what you said is so important, because so many of the people who I work with were always the anomaly in their family. They felt differently. They expressed themselves differently. They definitely walked to a different drummer. And the question is, I don't understand, how did I come to my birth family? And you're kind of alluding to what we call the imposter syndrome, right? Like, who am I to do this? Well, so this is my work, which is, Lokahi is about connection, right? To divinity, to nature, to each other. And modern science is now showing what our ancestors have known, right? Our ancestors, which is, we are wired as humans, wired for connection to a higher source, wired for connection with nature, and certainly with each other. And so I feel that people know the answers. They may not come from a tradition, but my work really is to be a catalyst. So Hawaiian culture becomes a foundation in which to explore your own background. It gives you a context. And so why I really appreciate Hawaiian values that are so holistic and practices is they are universal. And so we can see each other in these practices. And so the work is about connecting you to your inner knowing, connecting yourself to your gut, connecting yourself so that we don't have to keep on giving away our authority to an outside source. Because in the tradition I was raised, we are our best teachers with the guidance, right, of a higher source, divinity, nature being an amazing teacher, and certainly each other. That is actually my work, is to be a catalyst, to bring out what you know, to help you to remember. And here's the big one, going back to flip your script, right? When we look at mo'olelo, understanding that's our narrative, our stories, our traditions, our values and practices, the question I will always lead with is, so who are the earliest authority figures that help you to create your narrative? And is this narrative, is this story still true? Did you ever buy into it? Or did you buy into it because an authority figure told you who you are, how you should be, and what you're here to do? And so looking at our mo'olelo and I think you appreciate this, looking at the thoughts that we implanted in ourselves or that we allowed others to implant. And then how do we become so conscious of these thoughts and practices that are planted into us, and examine them through the context of Hawaiian practices, and say, this is me, this is not me. This is me, this is not me. And then it becomes that personal reconciliation process, so that you can own your story, and you become what we call pa'a, you become firm, but flexible. This is your story, but you're here. I'm flexible, I'm open, because I'm a consummate student. I'm always learning.
So one of the things that I think is so powerful here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Lani, but
Okay.
I feel like and it's funny when you were talking about being flexible, I'm reading Be Like Water right now, or Be Water by Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter. And I love, as a constant learner, I love when you see things that do kind of overlap. Like, you're like, wow, it's, what he's teaching. And I feel like Bruce Lee, what he tried to do is learn as much as he could and then teach you the best of what he learned. And
Yes.
so it just makes me always think of his main thing was be like water and be flexible like water, but also firm. How like you can't beat water no matter how hard you hit it, but it can form around anything. And she talked a story about how they had this new office she bought, and they tried to keep the water out, and eventually the water flooded the place, and it was like no matter how strong they tried to be, water found a way. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the whole thing on water. But I love, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the part I was getting at. I feel like the answers are out there, and we make it more complex than it has to be. And what made me think of this is we were talking about this book earlier, The Four Agreements.
Yes.
And that's another example of a family heritage. Like they're teaching Toltec wisdom that's been brought down, by each generation. But yet, when you read the Four Agreements, you're like, this is so simple. And yet, it reached so many people because it's so doable, and it's also real life principles. And when I read that book, and it made me think of this because you talked about, following what your family teaches and traditions. But when I read that book, I'm like, this book is so practical. It's so simple. Yeah. And are we not making it way harder than this? So my question coming back to, his thing is don't think things personally. It sounds so simple, but if you can learn to do that, that's transcending. So my point is, do you think we make things too difficult? That's my main question.
I do. It's because, okay, so this, in our tradition, the mind can actually, it can create great deception. It can lie. It can, the ego says, this is what I want to believe, and you believe, in comparison to your heart and your gut. And so now, right, modern science says that the gut is what? The second mind, and the heart, math, intelligence, right? So if we do lead with the integration of what our gut is telling us, the chicken skin is your gut saying something to you, right? So your gut and then your heart. If we lead with that as our native intelligence, I think that life would be a lot less complicated, because I think as human beings, we intrinsically know what's right and what's wrong.
We second guess ourselves.
Yes.
One of the keys for me when a client knows something is they say, I think. I said, if you think, you know, because if you think something, you think somebody else is going to know better than you about yourself. So flip the think to know, because we're taught to second guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean, from what I'm seeing, a common theme is a lot of people are talked out of following their gut.
Yeah. Yes. And that goes back to so many children, right? Being invalidated. And that's when I believe the narrative, your personal story begins to get messed up, because it's like, that's when you begin to, give away your own inner authority. And with children, especially, I'm passionate about working with children.
I love it. And we work with children really, no matter what age people are. I'm always hanging out with a 5-year-old or 4-year-old. Even if you're chronologically 80, I'm always working with somebody's inner child.
Yes.
I think the biggest gift that we could give to our children, I'm going to say this to you, Corey, for your kids. And my son, who's 27, he just turned 27. The one thing that I've taught him, hands down, no matter what, is follow your gut. I said, if there's anything, and he'll come and he'll ask me even to this day, what do you think? And he'll say, but I know you're going to tell me to follow my gut. Follow your gut, even if I don't agree with it. Like, that was a big lesson that I taught my son from a very young age. Yeah. What should I do? What does your gut tell you? And you teach your child what the gut feels like.
Yeah.
They don't know. What do you mean? What does my gut tell me? Like, we really have to be clear. Just like we're clear, like when you put your hand on the stove, it's going to burn. Right. Or, when we teach our child how to do something, teach your child what it feels like to feel their gut and know if it's a direction to take or not, whether we believe it or not. Because so many times we're projecting our own crap or our own what we didn't do, or how we think we would feel at 5 if we were in that situation. Allow them to have that experience. And I know this is on a tangent, but it's coming to me right now to share, because that is the most important thing.
Yes.
If we can teach only one thing to the human beings that we bring into this world, is follow your own gut, whether I agree with you or not.
Yeah.
Well, my 4-year-old, his new thing all the time now for the last 6 months is I have a bellyache, and we got him checked out, and there's nothing going on, but there is something going on. And what we think it is, I should say, so what we know it is, at least, but what we feel it is that he, it's when you're bringing him to a social setting, when you're bringing him to school. So what I think is his anxiety. He's feeling in his gut, and he's going, his social anxiety. And he's an empath. So he feels everything. So he's saying, oh my God, I feel sick again. But it's just because that's what his gut feels like. It's turning or whatever. But he's listening to his gut, because his gut's telling him.
So now teaching him the connection between, okay, so this is your body speaking, this is your like guide, your own personal guide, and you can know it for him and you can kind of tell it to him, but like really having that experiential experience and making that connection and knowing that no matter who he is or where he is or what's happening, that he always has his inner guide.
Yeah.
That's like super
I
powerful.
we're telling him. I don't like. It feels like at this age, he's not yet. He might be getting it internally, but he's not yet externally getting it because he's like, I think I ate too much candy. You didn't eat any candy today, bud. Yeah, I think I ate too much. It was like a week ago, and that's why I have a sick belly. But what I mean is that's his. He doesn't fully, I don't think, grasp it yet. But we're telling him.
He's not going to grasp it until he's taught it. We're not taught it. We're thought, you know, we.
Well, that's what I mean. We're trying to
I don't know, in Hawaiian culture, is that something that when you were a child, and because you have all of this amazing tradition and healers in your lineage, how were you guided as a child, do you think, that helped you to develop and become where you are now and have this real innate understanding?
Well, definitely in nature, being placed in nature and actually watching. We were actually told, pa'a I ka wa'a, which is, keep your mouth closed and observe, pay attention. And Corey, I had a similar, I'm an empath as well, and so I had very similar experiences. I would, even before walking to the room, I would feel something in my na'a. So the na'a, or the gut, right, is actually not only in Hawaiian tradition, but many cultures, right, the seat of your mana, or the seat of your power, your divine power. And so when I would feel it, this heaviness, like gurgling, just really horrible, I was validated. I was validated. And I would be said, okay, so what is it telling you? And I would be led through this process. And I think what you're doing is so important, so invaluable, Corey, because, when I work with one of my first jobs is in family court, working with children who were 10, 12, their files were like this, and they had stacks. The commonality when you interview the child and the parents is like a loss to culture, a loss to connection, to belief, a loss to actually having a feeling body, which is what we both are talking about. So when we numb ourselves to what our body feels like and what it's telling us, that the disconnection continues and continues and continues. And so nature is such a great healer. It's such a great teacher. And so, nature would, with my elders, my kupuna, they're the guides, they're the catalysts. They brought me to nature to be the great teacher. And still today, part of learning is looking for the signposts, right? Looking for the signposts. So right before I came on with you, I was in our yard. I chanted to say thank you for this time together. And between the trees, the sunlight literally just came in and just came right here. And this is the low, by the way, aloha. This is the low here. And it just came and then went away again. I went, okay, mahalo, thank you. So looking for the signpost to validate what our body feels. So important.
So here's a question that I'll follow up with. Ask your thoughts on this, but around my son. So I'll use that as, I'll go back to that for 1 second. So we got him into soccer. He loves playing soccer. He really wanted to play. And then certain days, and I can tell you what we ended up doing, but I'm curious your thoughts on how you would handle it, or how it was handled when you were younger, in terms of how you, like you said, you felt a similar thing. And so going to soccer, he would say, I don't want to go today because I'm too shy. And it was that same day on the way there, he's like, I feel like I'm having a sick belly. I must eat candy again. Like it's always back to candy. But my question is, like, same thing with school. Some days, like, I don't want to go today. I have a sick belly. But we know it's the social anxiety thing. And so how would you handle that is my question.
I had the same. I was like that too. I did not want to go to school. I did not want to go to church, to certain social settings. It was because I felt something was coming at me. I was so sensitive to the frequencies. And so how I would handle it is, well, and by the way, my parents, it depended on the intensity. They could read me. If I really looked freaked out, because we talked about this later in life, they were like, okay, you can stay home. They knew I wasn't, I loved school. They knew I wasn't trying to play hooky, right? So it's about your knowledge of how your son operates, right? So I would always talk it over, because the worst thing I think we can do for kids, especially that are so sensitive or empaths, make them go into a setting when you know they're telling the truth that I am not comfortable. They're, I think, for me at least, they're getting a forewarning. And as your child, you don't know how to handle these things. You just don't. You just don't. As I grew up, to this day, I've got it in my belly, right? But I can handle it now. So I took it upon myself, or I'm going to say this. I've taken it upon myself to work with children when they express this and go, let's talk about it. Let me, and then I teach them energy work, how to clear things, because we have, and Elise, you talked about this a little earlier. You talked about the womb, right? We have 3 people, 3 centers, the top of our head, how we come into our bodies, how spirit goes out as well. Energy effects. Chicken skin, the hair rises. Okay. The other pico is what? It's your belly button. The other people is the genital area. Those are 3 places where energy is informed. So when we're kids, we're taught nobody touches these areas. This is the feeling sensations as well, unless there's permission. So I work with kids to help them clear and cleanse and go, how do you feel now? How do you feel now? So I think that, we're looking at EFT as a great way of working with it. But Corey, I would consider never bringing, if a child has this repeated sensation, it's over and over and over again, I feel you should pay attention to it and talk it through.
So, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say, I don't, with our respect.
Don't drag them to soccer. I'll say it for you.
And I asked that. I wanted to tell you how, I want to ask your thoughts on it before I said, what we ended up doing. And this is more credit to Shelly than me, but Shelly's an empath as well, my girlfriend. And so she knows what he's going through because she dealt with it so much when she was younger. I dealt with it a little, but not to the level they did. And she did, and he is. But when it comes to school, the odd day he says it. Most days he says it, which is rare that he says it. She says, you want to stay home then with me, buddy? And he says, yeah. And then they rearrange everything so he can stay home. But you can tell there's certain times when he's like, because I want to watch video all day. So that's a totally different story. But with the soccer one, most times she didn't push it when he said he didn't want to go. And then there's other times she could tell that it's just literally that he felt shy that day, but he still was wanting to play. He's like, oh, I'd love to score a thing, but my belly's sick. And anyway, so then she'd talk it through and realize that day he may have been feeling a little shy, but he still did want to go.
Yeah.
And so, but similar to what you said, that's similar to how I'm going to say she more than me, but we both were together. But because she's an empath, she jumps on it right away. Yes. But yeah, he does get to talk out his feelings. So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to get your
thoughts. One quick note. This is like a cute little tactic that I found. I mean, I believe that I attribute to my ability to be able to communicate and understand where somebody's coming from is from my son, because I had to learn how to speak Dre. His name is Andre. And I recognize that I had to learn to speak his language, right? Because I had intentions, and as his guide, I needed to learn how to speak the language that he understood for himself, for the best him. So that being said, though, on this note, he would have anxiety if there was too many people, or he was going to a birthday party or whatever. He wanted to go, but it was too overwhelming for him to feel like he had to hold space for all of that at once. And I think that has a lot to do with it. So I would call the parent and say, hey, do you mind if Andre and I come and help you set up for the party? Because then it was just the birthday girl or boy and Andre, and it was he could do the one-on-one. And as the kids would start coming in, it was okay for him because he was already there. He had already held the space for himself. And I would say, do you want to stay or go? And 9 times out of 10, he would stay, because it wasn't all of that. It was going into that space that was so much for him. But to be able to ease in. So if he didn't want to play the sport, we just went and we sat on the side, and then he could ease himself in. So that might be an approach where he's not just going into all of that and having to hold this space, but easing and then having the space come to him where there's more, more ability to kind of hold your own space in that.
It's funny you say that, because that's what I teach speakers to do. is go to the venue before everybody's there. Because the speaker's like, how do I get over this nervousness? Well, first of all, don't walk into a room with 5,000 people staring at you. You know, like be there earlier and go and meet the planner and all that stuff. And so same idea. And I do that all the time. I go there when there's only me and the sound crew and whatever. And then when people get there, I've already kind of owned the energy for myself. Like I do the same thing, at least myself. And I tell speakers that struggle with that.
Well, now you can apply it to your kids.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to go there. But yeah.
No, it's true. Like it's the same for kids, you know, like it's just too much.
Yeah.
But I love that, you know, what you've learned and what you teach, at least we've, whether lucky or not or happy accident, we're at least on the right path, I think, from what I heard. So, and there's no manual. So, I mean, we're all just kind of figuring it out as we go along.
No, there's no manual. And actually, to take the techniques you two of you just explained, that's what I was raised to do too. And that's what I was doing outside before we began, is literally, right? And Corey, I was here last night, like, is everything okay? I was here this morning, you know, but it really is, for me, you're co-creating a space. You're co-creating a space, whether it's going to be in the spiritual world and the physical world, you're co-creating a space for the harmony or for the Lokahi to occur.